I've forgotten the Alagbonsi. Yeah, I remember when he was making the opening statement. He said that the Kwara Bureau of Statistics, the last time it was updated was 2012. So that is to tell you how much we have neglected data collection. You understand? So when there is poor data collection, then of course it goes to show that poor orientation is happening because you don't even know whether they exist, whether those people are there. So yeah, government successively have been very poor in orienting and reorienting people, and which is sad. Don't forget too, it was only recently that a radio station was put in somewhere in the Kwara North so that they can receive signals from Nigerian radio. What they were listening to were radio signals from Benin Republic. It happened under Abraham Abdurazak. So more needs to be done. You understand? More needs to be done before that rollout happens. So it's not about COVID-19. The neglect has been there long before then.
Well, this is not just speculative, Kwara. If you look at that, it's going to spread across, major parts of inner communities in the country. Again, I don't know, I beg to differ, but what is the essential role of the National Orientation Agency? And then we have communities that don't even understand. Like, for example, in Elisha Baruba, you hardly find people who, I stand to be corrected though, a few of them probably might understand the basic English language, but they have a peculiar language that is speaking Elisha Baruba, say for example, in Barutin. Now, some of these things, is it the responsibility of the National Orientation Agency for medical rollouts like this to be translated into their local language, or do they need a translator to pass the message across to them? Again, what do you think? Aside hunger, don't you think there's something else that must have filled, parents demanding for palliatives?
Yeah, like I said, there is cultural impediments. Do you know that, at some point in the core north, vaccination is seen as a ploy to sterilize mothers. It took a lot of orientation. They had to bring in clerics. You understand?
Very.
Now, let me, I in one of the programs I'm doing, a postgraduate program I'm doing, I was required to do something on, health campaign, and there was something I found funny, even among so-called educated people, that some cultural HIV/AIDS, as suffused as information is. Do you know that there are some aspect of the stigmatization that is brought about by, religious, like, for instance, ascribing, sex to the only reason why you have HIV/AIDS. You understand? And of course, by extension, you have issues like fornication, adultery, and the rest of them. And by extension, too, you say it's a punishment from God, So that thing tends to keep people who have HIV from saying things, because the immediate thing is that, they will think they will link it to fornication and things like that. So it keeps people short, So it is poor orientation too, and don't forget, the religion cuts across barriers. Even educated people, they come under that kind of influence. So you see, look, like I said, you summarized the entire gamut of the problem. What you said, cultural, poverty, everything. Now, as to the orientation, whether it's national orientation agency or not, I think it's that kind of a thing. Since it's a national issue, I think the state government and the national government, the federal government, must work hand in hand. They have to pool resources, especially in the area of manpower, especially in the area of getting down to local traditional heads. I keep on re-emphasizing this. The local traditional heads, traditional institutions, you have to bring them on board, for things like this. We tend to trivialize things like this, like immunization. United Nations once did, financial calculation of what it costs you when you put in $1 into health. At the end of the day, you get $18 from it in gain. You understand? So, it's a total package. The orientation for you to go and do palliative, and say, I did make a summary of what happens if you immunize your child against malaria, for instance. You understand? In the long run, it more than cuts, the cost that government have to do. You have to put into taking care of you when you fall sick. You understand? Okay, if you had immunized against, say for instance, what's it called? Measles, for instance. You come down with measles, take a child to measles. How much are you going to spend in the hospital but if you had taken that immunization, you can imagine, you are spared of the expenses, and government does not have to replenish all the time with drugs to take care of measles outbreak. So those are some of the things that we need to really consider. You see, we can say this because we are educated. I am speaking this in English, and an average person that is educated will understand what I'm saying. But for those people, you have to bring it down to their level, bring it down to kobo and naira for them to understand what the issues are, and that is where we are lacking. Distilling that information to such a level where they get to grasp what you're saying. So, and the best way is put it in naira and kobo, put it in terms of hunger. So look, you will die if you don't. It's as simple as that. So they will get to understand it.
There's a deadline for the immunization, though, from 0 years to about 59 months.
59 months, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What's the best possible solution, the best possible playouts in this situation?
Well,
because the parents are adamant, you either give us palliatives or we're not doing what it is that you want. And there's a deadline.
There is no hand wringing for the state government in this instance. I think if you go at them, you go and you go on and go on. One way or the other, you are going to break through. But again, is it too much to ask for? Let them give them palliative now. That's the truth. You understand?
Now, wouldn't that serve as a precedent?
A precedent?
Yeah.
It's a good precedent.
Okay.
It's a good, so it shows responsibility.
Then it defeats the purpose of educating the people, enlightening the people for them to know what is right and what is good for them from government.
Plus, when you think about the culture of dependency on these handouts, like giving palliatives back to back all of the time, we are
not saying all of the time. You see, look, we have a damage, and what we're about to do is damage control. You understand? I'm not saying palliative on a sustainable level. I know from their offices, there is a projection of, okay, we must meet this percentage of immunization. We must do this. So what are the obstacles that is stopping us from meeting up with this, So that is the first thing you do. So how do we get it? Look, give them the palliative, but you must reinforce it with orientation that, look, we are doing this not because of this thing, because it has been there, here. So next time when we come, it's not as if it's going to be. So the next time you go there, you reduce the palliative. But I can assure you that they would have seen the gains of the immunization. You understand? You say maybe after 1 or 2 years, you come and do a search again. Are there breakouts of measles? Are there breakouts of things like that? So you call them, you talk to them again. Had there been sickness? You see, that was why we said you should take this. So it should be on a sustainable basis. So it's not a one-off thing. It's not an off-cuff thing, because you are coming to immunize them, you now roll out the drums and the rest of them, come and immunize your children when they don't even know the gains. But after 6 months, 1 year, you go back to them, you make it regular. See, you have seen the drop now. So next time when we bring things like this, don't ask for palliative because we are trying to save your children. Definitely they will listen. They are humans.
But let me ask you, my colleague, I think this is a conversation of interest as well. How do we call back, religious leaders or traditional leaders who pass the wrong message to the people and probably don't get the people to understand what immunization is? You understand what I'm saying? And because you find people who will tell you it is wrong that you are immunizing, like the northern conversation or the northern scenario many years ago, that it makes a woman sterile and all of these things. But again, how do we deal with religious individuals like that or groups like that?
You don't deal with them, you persuade them. You see, look, see, the thing is this: it's about belief system. Well, maybe wrong, it's about this is what they have come to believe. They got it from the wrong source. Okay, let me make one example from my class in linguistics when I was in school. There is this thing you call fossilized errors. For those who took language in education, language learning, or is it language acquisition problem? Yeah, language acquisition is called fossilized errors. Errors that is imparted on a child by the teacher of a language. So it becomes fossilized. When he grows up, instead of pronouncing s, sh, he will say s. You understand? So that fricative, that is it. Yeah, fricative. You have that problem. It takes time to correct it. What you give that person is speech therapy. You understand? So it was passed on to them. So they are passing it on. So by using the sledgehammer, it won't solve the problem. Rather, it will breed resistance. It will seem you are persecuting them over their belief. And they'll be right in thinking that. So it's a question of reorientation, bringing people who are vast in that religion, that cultural aspect, to talk to them that, look, we have, a meeting point. We have a place where we can relate. See, look, in our tradition, long time ago, this is what we used to do. In the Quran, in the Bible, this was an example by the Holy Prophet. This was an example by Jesus, to show that things like this is not anathemic to our belief system.
Very true.
All right. Before we move into another conversation, this is to remind you that we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. And it's on Facebook at FlowFMNG and on YouTube at FlowFM927. We're streaming live. You can go on there and, get in on the live action in the studio this morning.
And also you can contribute and drop your, reactions in the comment section. Is very, very important as well too. React to some of the stories we're talking about. And then let's get your feedback. It's also very important to us. And the number is 0807 777 for the studio line and studio conversation. And if you want to join us online, we're streaming live as well too. You can always drop your comments under the comment section there. Let's move on to another story.
All right. And this is from the Arewa Consultative Forum and the 2023 presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and other stakeholders. They attacked the presidency for stating that President Bola Tinubu will stay in power till 2031.
Yeah. Well, am I not surprised? Well, that has always been the tradition with the average Nigerian Nigerian politicians. Don't forget, at some point, PDP claimed that they are going to be in power for 60 years. So, and don't forget, Akume is a product of PDP. So, it's the same mentality that you are seeing. But I think it's reckless. Because at a time when there are issues about whether the man is delivering properly or not, where his economic policy is finding it difficult to get enough buy-in, I think talking about re-election, is too premature. Then aside from that, don't forget that it is one of the plank upon which this single-term 6-year rotational presidency is finding traction. I don't know. There is a law, there's a bill at the National Assembly that have been, in multiple times, submitted to the National Assembly
and thrown out.
Yeah, and thrown out. It still keeps coming back, and it's because of thinking like this. Because the moment they get into power, rather than facing governance, they start thinking of re-election. So, for a lot of the proponents of that single-term tenure of 6 years, they say that, to avoid that distraction, let us give them once you get in, it's 6 years and you're not coming back. So, you concentrate on, ruling and delivering governance dividends to people. So, now, as much as I am neither here nor there on that proposal, I tend to think that it's quite unfortunate that men like Akume, are giving traction to things that ordinarily shouldn't even be. Because, as it is, 4 years plus 4 years, it's like you get rewarded for doing well and you get thrown out for not doing well.
And again, also makes me ask you that the handlers of the president sometimes, do they get clearance before statements have been made?
Yeah, statements like this.
There's statements like this because you've seen it before. It's not just Senator George Akume alone. No, it's not just him. It happened under former President Muhammadu Buhari. It happened everywhere. Handlers speaking, do they get clearance?
No, even if there are protocols to follow, it is not people like Akume or Wiki that they will ignore it because they are there because of a political arrangement. You understand? So, you see, look, don't forget that Tinubu had to do a lot of political brinkmanship and partnership so that he needs people who can sustain him. So he needs powerhouses, political powerhouses. So these kind of people are not easily restrained. They are politicians. They are not your technocrats. They are not like your average minister like Ojo. They're in, what's it called? In this Ministry of Interior. They are not people like him. They are not like that guy in the digital economy. You understand? Okay. These guys are technocrats. They are not given to frivolous talk. Politics and talking, they go hand in hand.
So do you think the statement he made is weighty?
Very, Very, very weighty.
And it sends a message to the camp of the opposition.
Of course, that is why they reacted. That is why PDP had to react. Look, you see, and when you look at Paul Ibe, he happens to be a very senior colleague of mine. We worked in one of the dailies in those days. He has sat down as a news editor, former news editor himself. He knows the implication of what the man has said. That is trying to prepare your mind that no northern candidate should come up. Mm-hmm. And Ibe knows that Atiku still has an ambition to run. So rather than come out and say that anybody that is going to come out has to come from South, he's saying that look, the North, the South is still, disproportionately, placed in terms of producing a candidate presidency.
There's a 6-year difference.
There's a 6-year difference. So he's trying to counter you so that you don't bring up that in 2027 when his principal comes out. So you see, that's the distraction we are talking about. You understand? Already before now he said it about how many days ago? What are we saying now? We are seeing reaction, and this reaction is going to play out probably for the rest of the week. So you're going to have a needless heat up.
This comment that he made, is there anything it would any discourse leading up to the 2027 election? The statement article made. About the 6-year difference.
You see, the thing is that
because it looks like there's a rotation going on.
You see, the thing is that there is always a gentleman arrangement.
Okay.
In politics, you rub my back, I rub your back. Like we say in pidgin. You understand? So it's always like that. You see, and there was a gentleman agreement, with the PDP in those days that rotation should be on the basis of North and South. And when you look at it in terms of figure, rightly, yes. It tends to the North tends to be a bit disproportionate. There's a disproportionate. How do I put it? Let me just say, the Southerners have produced more, president than the North since our democratic dispensation. You understand? In 1999. So definitely you can't say that they have a plank upon which to agitate that it should move to the North so that they can do their own turn and move it back to the South. But again, you see, democracy does not work, and the power equation does not work that way. Sometimes exigencies happened. And one of those exigencies was that Shehu Musa Yar'Adua died. Umaru Musa Yar'Adua died. And that was what led to that political glitch that produced Jonathan. And that's where you have all this needless configuration we are talking about. So, yeah, it's still going to be a recurring issue in 2027. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Also, let me remind and reiterate, we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at this moment. And it's on Facebook at FlowFMNG and on YouTube at FlowFM927. You can also contribute and, share your thoughts on the story. 0807-777-9927. Now, let's move away from local to one of the foreign stories that we have this morning. So yesterday we talked about one of the stories talked about Trump planning mass deportation. We have about over 11 million people are in the US without legal status, and it's increasing.
And that figure includes Nigerians as well.
Yeah, a lot of Nigerians actually. And now today Trump is also saying, he's vowing to end birthright citizenship. So that means like if you're an undocumented parent in the US and you go there to give birth to your child, it's not going to count. Like that child is not going to be a United States of America citizen.
Let us not first and foremost, let us try and understand what I think it's pushing Trump. We have said this countless times, he's a businessman. Now, in businesses, when you do acquisition, mergers and acquisition, there's what you call cherry picking. That is, when you acquire, you look for all those assets within this thing. Which one is good for my economy? This one is bad for my economy. You bring them in. You see, in an effort to, reform its, immigration policy, a country has a right to choose who can stay and who should go. You understand? That's on the one hand. Then equally to, like I said, it's about economics and business. Now, let's not forget that there is this thing we call the Malthusian theory. So with the population explosion, what is happening in the US is all over, nationalism. People are becoming more territorial, and US is saying that, look, if they don't keep a rein the influx of immigrants, whether documented or undocumented, they are going to have a problem. So a way out is to flush out the undocumented, And let's not forget that it's even a culture that, the moment your wife is pregnant, it's getting close to delivery, you do visa, you go there, it delivers, then the child automatically becomes
because they're enshrining their constitution. And that's the constitution is trying to end.
He's trying to end it. We say, I'm just trying to give you the thinking behind it. That look, they have sat down, they have looked at the figures. You understand? They've looked at the figures and they're saying that something has to be done, to check it. Now, I think Trump is going to face a constitutional barrier. You see, U.S. is not like Nigeria. Let us get that clear. He is going to face a very stiff, challenge. I can assure you on that one.
But on that again, the House is going to be controlled by majority Republicans. Do you still think they will be opposed to him this time again?
It has happened before. Don't forget.
And that was his first term, and then a lot of people were not very certain of the President Trump. But now he's a second term, so it does look like he's garnered the support of the people, and of course, some of the Republican Party is controlling the House.
That is true. But again, don't forget. You see, the law, that is their assembly, or the Congress, is essentially run by lobbying. Let's not forget, it's a very powerful tool of changing legislation, changing policies in the U.S. It is legal. It has a humongous financing behind it. You understand? And don't forget, the illegal immigrants, it's a very, very powerful force. It's a huge industry in the U.S. And in fact, as a matter of fact, why Trump faced a lot of opposition was because you see, that policy essentially attacked one of the biggest industries in the U.S., and that is hospitality. Do you know that most of those hotels that you have are run by illegal immigrants? That is the kitchen, the scrubbing, and all those things. So which American born want to go and wash plates?
That's it.
You understand? Picking of fruits on the farms. Who does it? It's the illegal immigrants, the undocumented people, because you can pay them below the wage line and they can't complain.
They won't complain.
You understand? So we are talking of a massive, humongous, resources behind it.
All right. Nicholas, our time is fast spent. Thank you for the conversation this morning. Tuesday, the 10th of December. Thank you for coming and thank you for your conversation this morning. I am Adedayo Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle. Shitta-Bey. Join us tomorrow as well from 8 to 8:30 to analyze some more stories. Do have a wonderful day. Good morning.
Thank you.